I'm going to find a way around this. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, I've been trying to do a Facebook Live, and Facebook keeps telling me I need to change my settings. I don't know what's happening, but we're going to get this video out there anyway. So for those of you who have never watched any of these videos before, hello, my name is Laurel Houston. I am the founder of Reflections Inside and Out, where we want to teach people how to love who they are inside and out, and the creator of body mapping, which is the map the universe left on your body to help you know who you are. So body mapping is a combination of 20 years of experience and working with staring at thousands of women and thousands of mentoring appointments, body language, energy, face reading, palm reading, toe reading. Also, if there's a part of the body that can be read, I've studied it, anatomy and physiology, all of those things put together. And this is video number 2 or 3, depending on so there was the eyebrow video. So if you count the eyebrow video, that was video number 1. But everyone has been asking a lot of questions about hair. And so we're going to call that one video number 1. Eyebrows, its own videos. So video number 1 for hair, we talked about hair color and whether your hair is light or dark and your desire to change it, cut it, all of those different things, what that means. And what we are doing today is talking about hair texture. So texture is not the same as density. So a lot of times when people describe their hair, they say thick, thin, coarse, as if they were interchangeable. And that's not accurate. So density is if you were to take a chunk of your hair and measure how many individual hairs are in that chunk of hair, that is density. So density is measured in thick, thin, or medium. I have medium density hair, meaning I can put my hair in an elastic and it takes a couple hours before I get a ponytail headache. So I have medium hair versus people who have thick hair, if they can find a ponytail holder to hold their hair. Their hair is usually so dense and thick that they tend to get ponytail headaches, versus someone who has thin hair that they can like put their hair in those rubber bands that you use for infants, and everything in between. So that is density, and we'll talk about that a little bit more on the next video. Depending on how fast I talk on this one, we might get to it on this one. So texture is if I were to pull an individual strand of hair. Texture is how thick is that individual strand of hair. So this is where fine, medium, and coarse comes in, because you can have fine, thick hair. You can also have coarse, thin hair, because one of those is texture and one of those is density. So my hair is kind of boring. It's medium. I have medium texture and I have medium density. So I'm right in the middle there. However, when I used to work when I taught at the beauty school, we had all these cute little, we call them shampoo set ladies, and they would come in and you would have some and they had like 9 hairs left on their head and they were just itty bitty, like your arm hair thin. They had thin, fine hair, where you could have another lady come in who still had a full head of hair, but it was really baby soft, and she had thick, fine hair. So fine, medium, and coarse is the texture. It's when you actually run your fingers down your hair. Does it feel silky? Is there a texture to it? So think coarse would be like wool, medium would be like cotton, and fine would be like silk, if you need a texture to kind of help with that. That is also how absorbent things are as well. People with fine hair, just like silk, as soon as it gets wet, it just sucks that moisture right up. Where people that have coarse hair, think about what wool does when you put water on it. So people that have coarse hair, when they go to get their hair wet or they wash it, it's a little bit water resistant, and you really have to actually fully saturate the hair before coarse hair really absorbs things. So the reason I'm telling you this is because you have hair all over your body and you have different textures and densities of hair all over your body. So for the examples that I'm going to give right now, I'm talking about head hair. Because for most people, their body hair is fine, but it can be thin, normal, or dense. But you also have coarse hair. Everyone has coarse hair in their armpits, on their pubic, it's called the mons, on your pubic area. those have coarse hair, because coarse hair is a protective barrier. So for those of you who have coarse hair, when you feel it, it actually has like some texture to it. You can actually feel the individual cuticles or scales of the hair, so you tend to be a little bit more protective of who you are, of your identity, of who you let in. But things also tend to repel off you more. It takes a great mass amount of saturation, just like with water, for you to really start to soak things in. So in some aspects, people with coarse hair, that's a beautiful blessing, because if you are around a lot of good people that have toxic behaviors, because I don't think people are ever toxic, I think we're all good, and sometimes we just have toxic behaviors. So someone who has coarse hair can be around good people with toxic behaviors, and they have to really be saturated in all of that yuck before they start to absorb it, especially in their thought patterns. Because what does your hair protect you from? It protects your ability to connect with your higher power, and it protects your thoughts. It helps regulate temperature. So your hair on your head, the coarser it is, the longer it takes for you to absorb stuff. But that sucked for you in school, because some of you had a really hard time. If the professor or the teacher only said it once, it repelled off of you. You didn't have time for it to really saturate in. Where people with fine hair, as soon as something is there, it goes in and it kind of absorbs. These tend to be people who get more stuck into people pleasing because they've taken on other people's thoughts and emotions. But the beauty with fine hair is that because it's so fragile and sensitive, so are these people, and they're beautifully emotionally in tune people. And so that fine hair is that you are more willing to be vulnerable. You're more willing to be seen. You don't need that hard, tough curtain to hide behind. And so if you have medium, that middle hair, there's a spectrum there, because people that have really, really fine hair, they are very fragile and they are very sensitive. And to me, those are very good things. They're very vulnerable. They're willing to be seen. Where on the other end, they're very protective, and it takes a long time for them to absorb things, whether that's knowledge or affection. Where the people over here, they absorb everybody's emotions and everybody's affection. And when they learn to handle and process that, it's not a problem. But when they are raised by people with very low emotional intelligence, it can cause a problem. So the really other cool thing, and I debated about bringing this up, but I'm going to anyways. So we all people have a chakra right here. This is your occipital bone. So that hard bone right there, that's your occipital bone. And right here, we all have kind of a little cave that has a chakra. And this is our, what word do I want to use? It's a spiritual chakra. It is for people who claim to be empaths. I'm choosing my words carefully here because I don't want to offend people. All people have empathic abilities, but some people have blocked off or closed this chakra down, and some people have it wide blaring open, and it's causing a problem. Because I am an empath. I have been my whole life. I am have a very high emotional intelligence with my empathic abilities, so I can go in public without absorbing everybody's stuff. It is possible, and if that is something that you would like to be trained how to do, then please join the Body Mapping Basics monthly mentoring, because that's one of the things that I talk about, is how to be a high functioning empath. But your hair can cover that. So even if you are a boy, we have hair that filters and protects that part of our body. In fact, it's the part of your head that has the best blood flow. So hair grows the fastest back here. That is also usually the place that people lose color last. So you can have all this beautiful gray hair around your hairline, and back here it'll still be dark. And so that is something that it's very important to our bodies to keep that spiritual part of our body filtered and protected. And your hair helps you do that. So because we're talking about texture, and I already mentioned armpits and your pubic hair, based on what I just said about why we have hair right here over this very sacred spiritual part of our body, That's why we also have hair over our identity, which is all of your genitals, all of those organs there. They have a filter and a protector, and your armpits. So people are like, oh, wait a second, how are my armpits sacred? Well, there's only 2 places on your body that secrete pheromones. And both of those places on your body have coarse textured hair. So your armpits and your groin area. Because the sweat glands that secrete pheromones have kind of a sticky sweat to them, because pheromones actually are oil-based. And so your pheromones are meant to get attached to those hairy places to attract people. Now, we currently live in a society where we shave everything, and it is actually causing people to feel disconnected and less attractive, which is so ironic because most women start shaving their armpits because they want to feel more attractive. Now, please do not misunderstand me. I am not advocating that we all stop shaving our armpits and look like gorilla women. However, I want you to understand why your body naturally, when you start to get into childbearing years, grows hair there. It has a very specific, beautiful, sacred purpose. It is to help attract a mate. It is to help others sense you and find you desirable. Whether it is you and your best friend, one of the reasons why your best friend is your best friend is because you find her pheromones pleasing. So, and this is why when you hug her, you instinctively breathe in a little bit because she's giving off those pheromones. This is also why a lot of pregnant women, and I know this isn't just about hair, I'm squirreling here, I apologize, but I'm not sure who's going to watch this video that needs to know this. This is also why pregnant women will both be extremely easily aroused by their husband, but can't stand the smell of him. Because your body doesn't really like pheromones when it's pregnant because it's already pregnant. So it doesn't need to be seen as desirable or attractive as far as producing offspring. It wants to be seen as desirable and attractive to make sure that their mate stays. And so many women, this is why people are drawn to pregnant women, because their pheromones become very, very sweet because their bodies are trying to gather a tribe around them. But why a lot of women can't stand the smell of other people's pheromones, because they're finding filtration, and they're filtering out those that are actually supportive versus those that aren't. But her husband, she's like, okay, so if he has eaten anything that is toxic for him, she won't like his pheromones that day. And it's your body being beautifully protective of the creation that you're making. So that was a huge squirrel, all because of armpit hair. But random thing about armpit hair, this is why so many women, when they're trying to have like a sexy, desirable pose, they will expose their armpit. How many positions, how many times, and it's not just because you're poking your breasts out, because I can do that by keeping my arms down, but we instinctively want people to see our armpits when we're being sexy and desirable, because it's like, smell my pheromones and see me as desirable and attractive. And so because we live in a society that shaves that hair, it actually takes more effort and energy for people to be attracted to you. So there's that. But that coarse, thick hair is about protection, and it's also to help people see you as more desirable. I could go on a huge scroll about that, and I'm not go even bigger than I just went, and I'm not going to. I want you to know with texture that there are advantages to having both coarse hair, fine hair, and that medium hair. One is not better than the other. So coarse hair tends to be more heat resistant than fine hair does. But if you turn that into emotion and energy and spirituality, because coarse hair is more resistant to things, they tend to be more resistant to admitting that they just had a I call them intuitive or spiritual downloads. versus people with fine hair it's easy for them to connect because their filter is so fine. So if you have people that are losing hair and their density is, well, I'll talk about hair loss on another video. Curl patterns. I wanted to get into curl patterns because this is probably one of the #1 questions that I get asked by women as their hair changes. Because your hair texture is more likely to change than the density of your hair, because density of your hair really has to do with how many individual hair follicles your body produces at a cellular level, where hair texture has to do with the health of the root, which is where your hair grows. So a little bit more on hair. It's called trichology. So everything you see is dead. So if people come in and say, I want you to cut off my dead ends, you would have to shave their hair. Nothing outside, once it leaves the scalp, this is all dead cells. But hair holds memory. And so the finer the texture, the more memories it holds. And so if you are holding on to a lot of memories of hurt, hard, and broken, your hair will be easier to break, meaning more split ends, easier damaged. If you have fine hair and your hair is full of joy and happiness, even though it's fine, it's going to be strong. So coarse hair, it is the same thing. Like if you were absorbed enough and saturated enough with something in your life, that memory is held in your hair, and it's sometimes so people with coarse hair will sometimes purposefully hold memories in their hair because it can cage it, and then it will fall off and be gone, and then they don't have to deal with it anymore. But this is why in the first video I mentioned that some women, after they have a big shift in their life, either for the positive or negative, they want to change their hair. And if they had really not good things happen in their life and now things are starting to get better, they want to cut their hair because they want to get rid of all those memories. So with, where was I going with this? With hair texture and curl, that's where I was going. So when women, there are 3 things that affect hair: health, heredity, and hormones. So pregnancy, both your hormones and your health, what kind of vitamins you're taking, are you nutrition depleted, do you have gestational diabetes, those are all going to affect your hair. But it's not going to affect anything here. It's going to affect here. So by the end of your pregnancy, hair grows about 1/4 to 1/2 inch a month. So by the end of a 10-month pregnancy, because it is 10 months, you would have about 4 inches of pregnancy hair. So for a lot of women, as soon as the hormone change happens, their body will create more melanin so that the hair becomes darker, because darker hair is more protective to the body than lighter hair. There's less sun and UV and whatever that can get through it. So for all of you that have said, every baby I had, my hair got darker, that was your body's own natural defense mechanism. And so at the cellular level, your hair went, we need more protection, get darker. So then you have a lot of people that have had medical treatments. They've gone through cancer and they've lost all their hair, and their hair that's grown back is a completely new texture. It was blonde and straight, and now it's dark and curly. And that is because it happened all the way down at the root of the hair. Your root, no one ever covers the root. It is called regrowth. When you go to get your hair done, you are getting your regrowth done, not your root. Roots are under the skin. The root is the brain of each individual strand, and that is under the hair. So when there is damage to the hair's ability to grow, it will evolve. And so that could mean color change, that could mean texture change, that could mean your hair goes from straight to curly. So with straight versus curly hair, people that have naturally bored straight hair tend to be more black and white in their personality. They're very straight-laced. That's actually where that term comes from. They stick to the straight and narrow. It's very, you're in, you're out, you're black, you're white. There's not a lot of gray area there. So then on the other extreme, people with really, really curly hair. And keep in mind that this is 4 different hair textures, because you could have Caucasian hair that's straight versus curly, and a woman who is just Caucasian that has really, really tight curl, that's nowhere near as tight as loose ethnic hair or African American hair. So even with kink and curl in African American hair, there are different tightness and looseness. And I won't get into all of those specifics because it'll probably bore you. But each race of hair has different straight versus a kink and curl. Asian hair is extremely straight, and it is very strong. And every time I would do a haircut on someone with, especially men with Asian hair, I would get hair slivers because their hair is so strong and so straight. You can actually cut things with it. So very cool. So the straighter the hair, the more straight-laced, the more black and white. Now think about that from a cultural perspective based on what I just told you. A lot of the Asian cultures are very honor-bound. They're very black and white in their thinking, and so is their hair. So then you go to the other end, the curly, the kinky, the more naturally crazy and flowy the hair is, the more naturally like go with the flow, life of the party kind of person they are too. And that holds true across different cultures as well. And so the people with really, really curly hair tend to be the more, especially if it's like flyaway curl, they tend to be the more flitty, flyaway type people. And they're always the life of the party, but they're hard. It's hard to get them to. It's hard to be like, can you commit to this? And they're like, I don't know, I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. I'm going to see how it goes. So if you have people, this is basically, I mean, yes, I've flat ironed this, but if I were to just let my hair air dry, this is about my level of wave. So I'm right in the middle. I don't have ringlets, but my hair is not straight enough that I can let it air dry. So I'm right in the middle where there are certain things where I am there. This is where programming comes in. And so because of my hair texture, mine is far more programming. Like these are the things that you're straight laced on, and these are the things that you're very playful on. And so I have found that when I am trying to be more playful, I tend to do my hair more curly, where if I'm more in I got to get crap done, I want my hair straight because I do stay on the straight path and just get it done. So the next hair video, I'm going to talk about density and volume. I talked a little bit about body hair. We'll kind of I'm going to fill into that and see if there is something there that I need to go more into. I want to just take a minute at this end because I mentioned it, and so I'm going to talk about it again. So I get dozens of questions every single Monday after I do a live video where people want me to personally work with them one-on-one, or they have, they come to me and they say, I have this, this, and this, and they want me to give them free mentoring. And ladies, I've been there. I get that. I know that there's a question you have wanted answered. But I do not do free mentoring through Messenger, and I please do not feel embarrassed, go into shame, any of that. If you have reached out to me, that is not what I'm saying here. All I am saying is if you have questions you want answered, I really encourage you to join the Body Mapping Basics monthly mentoring, because that is where I answer your questions. In the Body Mapping Basics, there are pre-recorded videos that go even more in depth than I do on these Facebook Lives. And once a month, I do a live call through Zoom. So anyone who has submitted a question, a symptom, what's my texture, what's my eye color, are my shoulders proportionate, or are they wide, or are they short, and oh, I have this back pain. That is where I will answer those questions for you. There's only 2 places that I will answer body mapping questions. One is my Looking Glass retreat, and one is in Body Mapping Basics. So if you have watched a video and been like, I have so many questions now, Body Mapping Basics is your place to get those questions answered. It is a subscription. You can be in there for 1 month. If you're like, oh, I only have one question I want answered, then join it for a month. It's $147 a month, and that just gets billed once a month. But for those of you that are like, no, I'm in this, I need someone who can help me through my emotional whatever's, I am tired of my body and me fighting with each other. I really want to get my mind, my body, and my spirit fully in alignment. Then sign up for the full year, because if you pay for the full year in advance, you get 2 months for free. And that means you get 12 mentoring sessions with me. So the mentoring sessions are group sessions. I am just opening up Body Mapping Basics. So here's the thing. If you're one of the first 5 or 10 people in there, that means you have an hour with me with only 5 people in there. So you'll each get, a 20-minute appointment. For those of you that are like, no, I just want one-on-one. I do one-on-one mentoring, but it's a 6-month mentoring and it's $12,000. And so if that is something that you are like, I am so ready to be done with all of this, I'm willing to put in the time, I'm ready to make the investment, then reach out to me. But I recognize not everyone has $12,000 to put into their mind, body, and spirit connection. So $147 a month for an hour of mentoring, getting all of your questions asked and answered. And here's the other part. You will be surrounded by a huge group of women that are actually interested in what you're interested too. They get the woo-woo world. They want their questions answered. And I have created this monthly mentoring because some of you have asked me to create an affordable place for you to be able to have these conversations with me. Why am I not doing it on the Facebook Lives? I want to do the Facebook Lives and get the content out there because so many people are searching for answers, but they're not necessarily ready to take action on the answers that they're given. And so the big, like, if you're debating, do I do this, do I not? Are you ready to actually make change in your life? If you are ready to actually hear your answer and then do something about it, then get into the Body Mapping Basics. If you just want an answer that you can then go, cool, then just keep watching the free videos. But information without implementation will never get you transformation. So you have to have information and implementation before you can get transformation. So for those of you that are ready for that transformation, join me in Body Mapping Basics. For those of you that aren't, it's okay. I've been there. I have spent years there. Then just stay in the Facebook group. And no matter where you're at, I honor you. I love you. I hope that you are getting the answers that you are needing. And if you are ready to start implementing those and really seeing big changes in your life, then join me in Body Mapping Basics. I will put a link in the comments for those of you. If you're on my email list, I just started to send out some emails for those of you that are interested in doing that. Oh, that's actually another important thing. After I hit 50 members, the price is going up to $197 a month. So only the first 50 people get the $147, and after that, it's going up to $197 a month. So I thank you, whoever energetically told me to remind you of that. I apologize this wasn't live. I don't know why Facebook hates me today, but I still wanted to give you content. So I love you. Have a fantastic day.